Tonight I'm going to show you how to make corrugated iron for your scale models, for these action figures for houses and things like that. To start off with aluminium foil baking tray. That's all I have. I cannot get sheets of this that is smooth, so I have to start with a baking dish like this. First I cut the corners like that, all four corners, and then I fold them flat, and then I start cutting the edges off, because these things are very rough. So I cut that edge off. It's basically almost exactly the size that I need. So I cut that off, and then I have to get this smooth. I must get this smooth. This is the little gadget with which I make the corrugated iron. It's just two rollers, and then we roll the aluminium through the center. I drive it with a hand drill. That's what I use to drive it with. A friend of mine made this gadget for me. Okay, this is the two edges that I've cut off from that baking tray. Now I'll have to go and flatten these things. First, what I do is I just unroll this edge as much as I can. So that I've got it like that. This tip here is useless, because in the manufacturing process of the baking tray, they press that in the factory, and that press is very tight. So I just cut that off, because it's useless. You can't get that flat. The roller gadget that I use is made of plastic, so it can't really take a lot of punishment. You have to be careful with it, and yeah, so it's got its limitations. Unfortunately, I don't have the equipment or the skills to make a roller press like this out of metal, which would have been much better, but that's how it is. I'm not an artisan, a mill that can do milling and lathe work and things like that. I wish I could, but I can't. So I have to work with what I've got. Now, I have to get rid of the scrap here at the edge. The next step is I must get these things as smooth as possible before I start rolling. That is another process. What I do is I hammer this between two blocks of wood. I hammer it between two blocks of wood to get it as smooth as possible. Okay, and this is what I end up with after some serious hammering. I've got a fairly smooth piece of aluminium now with which I can work. Alright, first I put the tip of the sheet into the rollers and I press it by hand and then try to get it going. Okay, there's the first pass. Second pass. And with every pass it gets better. And that's the story. That is how I do it. And that is what I've got. It's not 100% perfect. But for what I want to do with it, it's working fine. There's a little bit of zigzag. Yeah, it's not the nicest, but it can do the job for me. All I need to do now is to trim it properly, because once it's been rolled and profiled, then I have a line that I can follow to trim it properly. And when you work with this stuff, you've got to be careful. So, although it is just an aluminium baking tray, there's things where they're sharp. And if you're not careful, it can cut you. Now after I've squared it and trimmed it, I run it through the machine again, just to get it into profile again, because when you're cutting it, obviously it deflects. And that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. And that's the end product from the four sides of the tray. Now I've still got the centerpiece left, which is going to be much easier to work with. And but there is the result, and you can get an idea of what it will look like if you start implementing this onto a roof. Put it on a roof, use a little bit of airbrush magic to weather it, and I think it's going to look quite authentic. Thank you for watching.